Now when you look at a ceiling or a wall, if you see it all random-made, chances are it's a skip trowel. You can see ridges on it, and sometimes in the old days they put and mixed in just a little bit of sand. If you see any sand in it, in the texture on your walls, chances are it's a skip trowel. Now this barely, and I say barely, has some little sand grit bits in there. And I'm choosing not to put any sand in my sheetrock mud before I put it up there. I'm using all-purpose joint compound. You know, if you put sand in there, it has to be a certain type of sand. It's got to be really super thin sand. It's not what do I want, a sandbox type of sand. That's too thick. It's another type of sand, and you can get it at the store. In some places, you might have to go to an actual sheetrock wholesale house if you feel you need that, and then you got to kind of play with that and determine how much sand to put in, and that kind of helps skip it along. Skippity-doo-dah, you know. I'm liking it so far. And you know what? If when it dries and everything, and you stand back, you're not 100% happy with it, you could scrape a little bit of it off in certain areas, and you could add a little bit more where needed. Pretty much what I'm saying, it's hard to screw up sheetrock mud. If you want to go a little bit further on it, you can. It gives you kind of practice areas, and realize that the more patches you do, depending what it is, the better you're going to get. That's just the laws of nature. Okay? Just kind of hold it on there. It's kind of amazing how it goes on, and when you get done, you're going to be like, wow, I did that? Man, somebody looked at that and they thought a professional did it, and they were amazed when they knew I did it. Now see right in here, I'm not too happy with that. I'm just going to scrape off a little bit of it. I'm going to put on a little bit more. It all kind of went at a certain same angle, and you know, just wiped it off like that. That's why you got to have a light touch. Like right there, if I go harder, it's going to flatten that down, and I'm not going to have as much all over the place. You see what I mean? Okay. Oh, that one went on good. It went on good, but there wasn't enough of it. So that kind of gives me a little bit of a background, and I can just add some more on there. Make sure you go all the way around. You don't want to miss the edges. And remember not to go in the same direction all the time. I got to keep reminding myself that too. And kind of take it, flatten it down, and try to keep away of all the lines. If you see too many lines up there, you might have to wipe it a different direction or something. You want to add just a little bit somewhere, you can. Just tap it, and then I can wipe. There. I think I want to add just a little bit right there. I can just do that and wipe it down. I'm looking at it, and it looks like I'm putting just about the same amount of mud that was on initially. You always have to kind of look at that, because you don't want to put yours on thicker than the existing, because if you do, when this dries, your pattern might be okay, but you might have put too much mud on there, and then you're like, oh man. Well, next time I'll just have to make sure I don't put as much mud. Or you can lightly sand that when it's all ready to paint, or even brush it. At this you know, when this is dry, I'll probably go with the sponge over it, kind of soften it. I'll have to look at the existing, feel if it's got any ridges on it. And if it feels, you know, whatever it feels like, I'll feel my patch and try to mimic my overall look on there, because the paint is going to catch that differently. And if you don't do it right, and if you have a whole lot of high ridges on here, you're going to see your patch that way too, because you're going to see shadows depending how your light's on there. Okay? And lots of things to think about when you're putting this on. But I know you can do it. Okay, I'm still using that 3-inch. I'm putting it right on my tip, and if you work from the outside and start coming back towards you, you're gonna maybe have a better go at it. We'll see here. No, you know what? You work from this side and then closest to you and then go away from you. Got to think about that for a minute. I've got quite a bit on my knife, and so I'm going to just kind of put a little bit on it, and I've still got more on there, so then I can hold my knife a different way and kind of flatter and put a little bit more on. You see, so I just keep dabbing it on there like that. I'm doing this whole patch, this little patch with the 3-inch knife. Yeah. Now I can flatten it just a hair. Don't want to do too much. Okay. That looks like I might want to add just a little touch in the middle. Wipe off the excess and then wipe that down. Okay, there. I think that blends in rather nicely. Now this technique is really called skip trowel, and you're not seeing much of that with the way I'm doing it, are you?
No.
I'm just kind of tapping it and going. Now, if you watch a professional do this, it's quite amazing to see how they mix it and go on big, huge wall areas, yeah. Let's say. It's kind of a technique they don't really do much anymore.
They use the big knives. The big knives.
They use big knives, all right, but not on small patches. They don't. You use a big knife, you get it all around here. And incidentally, if you don't feel comfortable with that, you can kind of put a little bit around your patch area.
Yeah.
If you think that's going to kind of blend it in, let's say. Now the last time I did this, I lightly sanded it with a sanding pole, but the mistake I made, I think, was I didn't sponge in just the outside area, and it was just a hair higher than the existing lips and ridges, and it looked, overall, it looked really good, except in a couple spots around the edges. So I'm going to remember, when this dries, I'm still going to hit around the edges a little bit so I don't have a high edge. If I have a little high edge in between some of the existing nooks and crannies, it might leave a higher ridge than the rest of the painted ceiling.
Yeah.
Okay? It doesn't take much for your patch not to blend in, okay? So be mindful of that.
That's what you want.
That's all I got for this time, but I'll be back. with more videos.